Did you know one of the most revolutionary cars ever built sank to the bottom of the ocean before it could even hit the road? Today, we're uncovering the lost treasures of the 50s and 60s, concept cars so advanced they were decades ahead of their time. From jet-powered engines to self-driving tech, these vehicles changed automotive history forever. Stick around, because by the end, you'll discover the #1 concept car that predicted the future of automobiles 60 years before anyone else. Starting our countdown at number 10, we have the 1956 Chrysler Norseman. It looked like something from a sci-fi movie with its dramatic fins and sleek shape. The most amazing part was that the roof had no visible supports, as it seemed to float like magic above the car. Those 4 headlights we take for granted today, they showed up on the Norseman 2 years before they were even legal on regular cars. Inside, a revolutionary control center put everything at your fingertips with 8 light-up buttons. Sadly, this one-of-a-kind car never made it to America. Built in Italy, the Norseman was crossing the ocean on the Andrea Doria when the ship sank in 1956. Today, this amazing concept car sits at the bottom of the sea. Perhaps the saddest car story of all time.
All the gauges, it's kind of like a rocket ship type of thing there.
The pods are like hanging in midair, suspended.
Absolutely.
Almost, right? And the even the consoles feel like they're almost floating.
Next up at number 9, we have the 1956 Mercury XM Turnpike Cruiser. The Mercury XM Turnpike Cruiser wasn't just space-aged inspired. It looked ready for takeoff. Its sleek shape cut through the air better than most cars of its day, especially those headlights tucked away behind a massive front grille. But the coolest part was that power-operated breezeway rear window. Push a button and it lowers to give you fresh air without messing up your hair. Inside, a special panel showed 12 different car functions, while the see-through steering wheel had radio and air conditioning controls, tech that wouldn't appear in regular cars for another decade. While this exact concept never hit showrooms, many of its ideas showed up on the 1957 Mercury Turnpike Cruiser. That special rear window concept? It took another 40 years before it came back on modern cars.
He gave it away for the cause of charity. They say this is the most expensive car ever built.
Now we're going to meet the car that cost $250,000 to build, in an era when that much money could buy you a whole neighborhood. At number 8, we have the 1954 Lincoln Futura, which wasn't just a concept, it became a part of pop culture history. Those twin bubble tops added 9 inches of headroom while making every other car look old-fashioned. 14 coats of pearly white paint gave it a deep, otherworldly shine. The hooded headlights stuck out 8 inches while the tail fins reached 36 inches high. Inside, the steering wheel folded away to make getting in easier. 4 different temperature zones let each person control their own comfort, while the special fiber optic lights eliminated regular bulbs on the dash. But what makes this car so legendary? Well, a decade later, car customizer George Barris turned this one-of-a-kind Lincoln into the most famous TV car ever. The original Batmobile from the 1960s Batman show starring Adam West. And in the deal of the century, he bought it from Ford for just $1. Number 7, we have the 1955 Ford LaTosca. While other car makers were still figuring out basic convertible tops, Ford created a fully retractable hardtop that disappeared in just 12 seconds. The sleek body cut through the wind better than many modern cars. That huge windshield wrapped around nearly 180 degrees, giving drivers amazing visibility. The 4-stage headlamp system looked like pure science fiction when headlights were still just simple bulbs on most cars. Inside, the seat spun around on special bearings, while electronic displays used transistors instead of vacuum tubes, and that was cutting-edge tech for 1955. This led to Ford's revolutionary Skyliner retractable hardtop that appeared just 2 years later. Next on our list, we have the number 6 vehicle, and that is the 1956 Oldsmobile Golden Rocket. With a name like Golden Rocket, this Oldsmobile concept had to be special, and boy, it was. Gold-tinted fiberglass made this 2,200-pound rocket on wheels almost half the weight of regular cars. At just 52 inches tall with a 48-inch glass roof, it looked fast even standing still. Those twin hood sections opened outward like wings powered by special motors that would later inspire power lift gates. The 12 chrome strips feeding into brake cooling ducts weren't just for show, they actually helped cool the brakes. Inside, the seats moved in 6 different ways and automatically slid back when the doors opened, and that was technology that wouldn't reach regular cars until the 1980s. The steering column tilted for easy entry while rotating drums showed 24 different functions behind 8 airplane-style switches. This car was so advanced that GM bosses ordered some features removed before showing it to the public. They were literally too futuristic for their own good.
You can imagine back in 53 and seeing this and just, it's an aircraft on wheels. And by the way, it's got a turbine.
Now, while most concept cars played with fancy styling, Harley Earl's team built something truly revolutionary, and that's our number 5 car, the 1953 GM Firebird 1. It was America's first gas turbine-powered road vehicle. This wasn't just a car with jet styling. It had an actual aircraft engine making 370 horsepower. With a ground clearance of just 7.5 inches and a delta wing body, you'd think it could take flight. Engineers claimed it was stable at 200 miles per hour, but not a single test driver was brave enough to find out, and can you blame them? This wasn't just a show car. It was GM's bold statement that the future might run on jet power. While turbine cars never caught on, the Firebird 1's influences on car design lasted for decades. Now, unlike most concepts that disappeared after shows,
in effect found a way of harnessing the great exhaust energy of a jet-like engine by utilizing the turbine effect, much like that of wind on a windmill.
Chrysler built 55 real-world versions of our number 4 car, and that is the 1963 Chrysler turbine car, and they actually let regular people drive them. Those sculptured side scoops fed an engine that spun at a mind-boggling 44,500 RPM. The famous bronze paint took 35 different ingredients to match the turbine wheel's color perfectly. Inside, 7 special gauges let you monitor your jet engine. The leather seats needed special cooling channels just to keep passengers comfortable, while different fuel controls let you run on virtually any fuel. This wasn't just for show. The 50,000 miles of public testing provided valuable information that influenced turbine development for decades, even if the technology never reached mass production. Now at number 3, we have the 1951 GM LeSabre. When other manufacturers were still building cars like tanks, the LeSabre used lightweight metals to shed hundreds of pounds. It had 2 fuel tanks, one for regular gas and another for methanol, when you needed that little bit of extra power. Rain sensors could close the power top in just 8 seconds, while hidden headlamps and electric jacks made other luxury cars look ancient. The LeSabre's jet fighter-inspired front end would influence Buick's design for the next decade. Inside, it featured the first heated seats, warming to a toasty 90 degrees at the flip of a switch. An oval steering wheel put 22 illuminated displays within reach, using an electrical system years ahead of its time. The LeSabre wasn't just a dream car. It was GM's design chief Harley Earl's personal vehicle for years, proving these concepts could actually work in the real world.
Here, tomorrow's driver might just push a button, and the car would literally drive itself.
Now, when steel was king, GM boldly built our number 2 car, and it was the 1956 GM Firebird 2 with titanium, making it 700 pounds lighter than normal cars. That aggressive front end fed massive amounts of air to the second-generation turbine engine. Most revolutionary were those special sensors that could read metallic strips from the road, basically an early version of self-driving technology. The 4-piece canopy used special heat-resistant glass that cost more than most family cars. Inside, drivers controlled the car with a joystick moving in 4 directions, while the primitive navigation system kept them on course. The seats rotated completely around, while special vents kept everyone cool. The Firebird 2's technology was so advanced that NASA engineers studied it while developing spacecraft controls. Pretty impressive for just a concept car.
More than a generation away, and yet dreams travel faster than light. And even now, scientists and planners are shaping the lives of our children who will live in the 21st century.
And finally, at number 1, we have the most forward-thinking concept car of the era, the Ford Seattle 21. This revolutionary six-wheeler didn't just predict the future. It invented the modular car 60 years too early. Those 6 wheels supported this massive vehicle, while 4 different interchangeable power packs could swap in and out like giant batteries. Want nuclear power? Swap it in. Do you prefer regular gas? Well, just change the module. This approach to power is exactly what many electric car makers are developing today. Special gyroscopes kept it stable through turns when most cars would be sliding. An impressive 24 separate sensors monitored road conditions, technology that wouldn't return until modern stability control systems decades later. Inside, the control pod housed 42 transistors when most cars still used mechanical switches. The entire pod slid sideways, making the car drivable from either side decades before McLaren tried it. A primitive mapping screen predicted the navigation systems we now take for granted. The Seattle 21 was so far ahead of its time that the car industry needed half a century to catch up to its innovations. If that's not the definition of a visionary car concept, I don't know what is. And that wraps up our countdown of the most incredible concept cars from the 50s and 60s that never made it to production. So which one of these cars would you most want to see brought back to life? Was it the jet-powered Firebird, or the bubble-topped Futura that became the Batmobile? Or maybe the anything-goes turbine car that ran on perfume? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey through automotive history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.